first scream didn't come from a person. It came from the house. Lightning split the sky over rural Maine as Eric stopped his truck outside the abandoned colonial that realtors whispered about and locals called the House of Haunted. His flashlight flickered when the thunder rolled, as if something inside the home breathed out against it. The front door creaked wide, though he never touched it. Rain hammered the rusted gutter, drowning the woods around him. But the sound from the house was louder, almost like a warning. He hesitated. His boots sank into mud. His wife, Hannah, and his younger sister, Lily, stayed inside the truck, their faces pale behind fogged glass. This was supposed to be their new life, cheap land, fresh start, restoring old homes. But nobody mentioned that this place was feared. A whisper slid through Eric's ear as he stepped past the doorway. If they're watching, tell them to stay close. They should like and follow. They never want to miss what comes next. He froze. The whisper wasn't thunder or wind. It sounded like someone speaking right beside him, but nobody was there. He shivered, then shook it off. The hallway smelled like mold and soil. Wallpaper peeled like dead skin. A chandelier dangled half-broken, wires showing like veins. The air tasted metallic. Something moved upstairs quick, almost playful. Eric's breath fogged even though it wasn't cold. Hello? He called. His voice didn't echo. It was swallowed. He walked further inside, pushing the door until it groaned shut behind him. The house exhaled again, long and wet, like a grave being opened. "Eric!" Hannah yelled from outside. "Don't go far. I won't." He shouted back, though every instinct said to leave now. A faded portrait hung on the wall, an entire family posed with stiff smiles. The parents looked ordinary, but the children, their eyes were smudged black, painted over, as if someone violently erased them. Upstairs, a door slammed. Eric flinched. "Hannah, Lily, come in. Bring the lantern." He called, needing human voices behind him. They rushed in, blinking at the darkness. Lightning flashed through a cracked window, lighting the stair, railing deep splinter marks embedded like claw scratches. "You hear that?" Lily whispered. "It sounds like someone's upstairs. It's just wind," Eric lied. The three moved into the living room. Their footsteps matched something else, another set walking slightly behind them. Every time they stopped, the unseen steps stopped a second later. A children's cradle sat rocking in the corner, though there was no draft. "Don't touch it," Hannah murmured. Lily stared at the hallway. "Guys, did you see that?" "See what?" Eric asked. Something moved, like a shadow, but thicker. Eric steadied her shoulder. "Old house noises." "No," she whispered. That wasn't noise. Thunder rolled again. Somewhere upstairs, floorboards creaked deliberately, weight shifting. Eric's phone buzzed no service. The realtor had warned them the place sat too close to the forest and too far from cell towers, but the way the signal died here felt intentional. "Let's check the basement and upstairs tomorrow," he said. "We'll set camp for tonight in the living room. We're tired, nerves are high." A hollow laughter cut through the words. It wasn't human. Lily grabbed Eric's arm. "We need to go." Eric lifted the lantern. "Who's there?" he shouted. The cradle stopped rocking. The house went silent. Then, 3 knocks sounded from the ceiling directly above them, slow and steady like fingernails tapping wood. Eric stepped under it, staring upward. The wood bowed inwards, as if someone stood on the ceiling, pressing down. Nope, Lily trembled. Hannah pointed the lantern toward the stairs. "Should we see who's—" The tapping became pounding. Then a voice, raspy, childlike, whispered through the plaster. "Help me." Everyone froze. "Did you—" Lily choked. "Eric, that was a kid." Eric swallowed. "Somebody could be living here. Squatters. Maybe they're hurt. But why would they whisper like that?" Hannah asked. Before Eric could answer, the house shifted. The chandelier swayed violently, glass clinking like teeth. A black streak dashed across the top landing. Eric bolted up the stairs. "Eric, wait!" Hannah shouted. He reached the second floor. The hallway stretched deeper than it looked from downstairs. Door after door lined both sides, all slightly opened. The walls here pulsed breathing, almost warping inward and outward. Hannah and Lily caught up. Eric opened the first door. A child's bedroom, tiny, old toys scattered. A wooden rocking horse stood motionless. A handprint smeared across the mirror, small, dark, dried. Lily whispered, "Someone died here." The whisper returned, this time behind them. "They never left." Hannah shrieked. Eric spun. Nobody there. The door they had entered through slowly pushed itself shut. Eric lunged to stop it, but it closed on its own with finality. The air tightened. Temperature dropped abruptly. The rocking horse began moving. First a sway, then a violent gallop. "Please, let's go," Lily cried. Eric grabbed the doorknob. Locked. The walls trembled. A voice began singing, not from one direction, but all around them. A lullaby, off-key, words impossible to place. The rocking horse crashed over, shattering. The window blinds snapped and twisted like ropes. Eric rammed the door, but it held. Hannah screamed as something tugged her hair upward. Lily gasped when something invisible gripped her wrist and yanked. Eric roared, slamming the door over and over. His hand struck something wet on the wall, blood smear fresh. Finally, the door burst open. They spilled into the hallway, panting. Behind them, the bedroom's lights flicked on by themselves, though the house shouldn't have electricity. Inside, a figure now sat where no one had seconds before. A little girl in a white dress, face obscured, head tilted. Eric yanked the others. "Run!" They stumbled toward the master bedroom at the end of the corridor, lightning flashing through broken windows. But each strike made the hallway longer, stretching unnaturally, doors multiplying, the house growing like a labyrinth. "We're not getting anywhere," Hannah gasped. The little girl stepped into the hall behind them. Small bare feet, but when she moved, her limbs twisted as if broken. "Move!" Eric screamed. Thunder boomed. They reached the last door and shoved their way inside. The master bedroom looked frozen in time, bed neatly made, dust dancing. A large oval mirror dominated the wall. Their reflections appeared. Wrong. Pale, distorted, eyes darker than they were. Someone else stood behind them in the reflection, tall, long shadowed arms. Eric spun. Empty air. Lightning cut again. The reflection behind them smiled with a grin too wide. Lily sobbed. "Why is this happening?" A whisper slithered through the room. "Because you opened the door." Eric backed away. The mirror warped inward, face-like impressions pushing outward, as if trapped things desperately wanted to break free. Hannah stumbled, clutching her stomach. "Eric, there's something under the bed." Eric crouched, hesitating, then lifted the sheet. Two hands reached up and seized his face. He screamed, jerking backward, nearly falling. The hands vanished. The girl appeared in the doorway, now closed her eyes, still hidden. She lifted her arm slowly, pointing straight at Eric. The house trembled like an earthquake. The mirror split down the middle with a shriek. Glass sprang outward. And from the crack, countless whispers burst out. "Like and follow. Watch. Stay. You already belong." A black skeletal hand started to crawl through the split glass. Lily screamed. Eric grabbed Hannah. The bedroom window exploded open, rain blasting in. The skeletal hand pulled itself through, clawing the floor, body forming, head rising, its empty jaw cracking open. And as it lunged toward them, the room lights flickered once, and everything went pitch black. Everything went pitch black. Eric couldn't breathe. He couldn't see. The thing's skeletal fingers brushed his leg, cold, sharp, probing. Hannah screamed somewhere near him, her voice echoing wrong, as if bouncing inside a hollow skull. Lily's sobs overlapped thunder. But the thunder wasn't outside anymore, it was inside the walls, shaking the house like a giant heartbeat. Eric reached blindly, crawling on splintered floorboards, pulling his family close. "Stay together!" he yelled. Something rasped inches from his ear. Too late. The lights snapped back on. They were no longer in the master bedroom. They stood in the living room again, but the furniture was rearranged, the fireplace lit with a sickly green flame, casting shadows that moved on their own. The rocking cradle now sat at the center, swaying violently. The skeletal figure was gone, but the little girl stood beside the cradle, head bowed, hair draped like a curtain. "No," Lily whispered. "We didn't walk here." Eric backed away, dragging Hannah and Lily behind him. "This house is playing with us." The girl lifted her face slowly. Her eyes were hollow sockets, black pits, leaking darkness like smoke. She smiled. "Eric." Hannah whispered. "Why is she smiling?" The girl lifted her hand, her forearm bone, visible beneath stretched skin, and pointed at the wall behind them. Carved into the plaster, written in something dark and wet, "Welcome to the House of Haunted." The walls shuddered. The girl whispered, voice layered with hundreds of others. "You watched. Now you stay. And if you are watching too, Don't forget to subscribe to what comes next. They hate when you leave. Eric dragged his gaze away from the message. We need to get out now. The front door swung open violently, as if agreeing, revealing storm and darkness. They didn't hesitate. They bolted outside, but the rain was gone. The truck was gone. The road was gone. Only woods stretching forever, swallowing the world in mist. Hannah screamed, This is impossible! The house behind them creaked, its windows blinking like eyes. They turned back toward it. The house now looked taller, wider growing. Where's the truck? Lily gasped. Eric, where's the road? Lightning flashed directly overhead, but no thunder followed. The air felt muffled like cotton stuffed in their ears. Then, from the trees, voices whispered, children, laughing, running. Shapes darted between trunks, small figures, pale skin, long limbs. Eric stepped back, shielding Hannah and Lily. Get inside, back inside! They ran into the house. The door slammed shut, sealing like it was never meant to open. All sound returned at once: wind, thunder, the crackling fire. The house pulsed with satisfaction, like breathing deeply after a meal. Hannah collapsed into a chair. I can't. Eric, I can't do this. The floor beneath her sagged, splintering. Move! Eric yanked her away. The chair dropped into darkness, vanishing into a void that hadn't existed seconds earlier. A distant chorus whispered, hunger. Lily pressed herself against Eric. We're going to die here. Eric forced himself to breathe, thinking like a contractor, not prey. The house reacts to fear. We stay calm. We find exits. A scream cut him off. Not Hannah's, not Lily's. It came from behind a wall. Small, childlike cries, clawing at the wood as though begging escape. Eric approached cautiously. Hello? Where are you? Tiny nails scratched the plaster from inside. Help me. He pressed a hand against the wall. Something pressed back. A little hand, warm, trembling. Then it pulled away violently, accompanied by another voice. Deeper, older, furious. Mine. The crying stopped. Eric stumbled back. There are things trapped in the walls. The green fire dimmed, the room darkened, and the chandelier above them began to swing hard like something was hanging from it unseen. Eric looked up. 2 bare feet dangled from the shadows. Hannah shrieked. The feet twisted, body slowly lowering, a hanging shape. Neck crooked the wrong way, face turned inward, hair covering features. Then the head snapped up, revealing its face. No eyes, just skin pulled smooth over empty sockets. It gurgled and pointed at them. Eric grabbed his family. Basement, now! They bolted through the hallway, the hanging figure swinging after them, neck cracking back and forth. Eric yanked open a doorstairs, descending into darkness. They rushed down as the door above slammed shut. The damp smell of earth filled their lungs. Water dripped. The lantern flickered weakly. The basement was massive, larger than the footprint above, almost like a tunnel network beneath the house. Walls of stone, archways fading into shadows, shelves lined with glass jars filled with unrecognizable shapes floating in cloudy fluid. Eric, Hannah whispered, shaking. What is this place? A voice answered from the dark. A nursery. They turned. A rocking chair slowly stopped moving, like someone had just risen from it. The girl appeared again, but this time standing closer, eyes now full of faint lights swirling inside empty sockets. Behind her, shapes crawled along the walls, shadow children, limb lengths wrong, elbows bending backwards. Eric held up the lantern. Why are you doing this? The girl tilted her head. Because you entered our story. Now you cannot stop reading. The shadows crawled toward them, hands clicking on stone. Lily screamed and ran. Lily, no! Eric shouted. She turned a corner and vanished. Eric chased her, lantern shaking. Hannah followed, crying her sister's name. The tunnel twisted and split. The air grew colder. Their breath fogged again. Something whispered their names over and over, mimicking their voices with increasing accuracy. Lily? Eric yelled. A voice answered, but wrong. Here... Eric, help me. He sprinted toward it, rounding another corridor. Lily lay on the floor, eyes wide, shaking uncontrollably. Eric dropped beside her. Lily, talk to me. What happened? She pointed behind him, mouth moving but words stuck. Eric turned. A tall figure stood inches away, not the girl. A man, gaunt, stretched skin, ribs protruding through his chest as if trying to escape. His grin split impossibly wide. "Welcome home," the man whispered. Eric swung the lantern. It passed through him, flickering his body like smoke before he reformed again. "You don't understand," it said. "You are in the belly of the house now." Hannah pulled Lily up. "Where do we go?" A low rumble shook dust from the ceiling. From the tunnel walls, skeletal hands burst out, reaching, clawing. Eric yelled, "Run!" They tore down passageways, breath ragged, hands scraping stone. The air behind them filled with shrieks, not human, not alive. A light appeared ahead, faint, flickering. Reaching it, they stumbled into a chamber. A giant mirror sat in the center, same as upstairs but larger, framed in twisted roots. Reflections churned like water. Lily gasped. "Eric, this could be a way out." He didn't want to hope, but it was all they had. They approached the mirror. Their reflection stared back, terrified, but something was off. There were more people reflected behind them, dozens faces, pale, dead eyes watching. One reflection stepped forward inside the glass, a hand pressing against the other side. The gaunt man's voice echoed. "The door is open. Who will you trade to leave?" Eric froze. "What do you mean trade?" The house answered with another whisper, thousands of voices overlapping, a soul for a soul. The girl materialized beside the mirror, her dress now soaked in black fluid. She lifted her hand toward Lily. "No!" Eric shoved Lily behind him. The girl smiled. "Then give yours." The mirror rippled. Something reached through a hand, long fingers, nails like broken glass grabbing Eric's wrist. Eric screamed, pulling back. Hannah seized his arm. Lily clung to him, but the reflection hand dragged harder. The girl leaned close, whispering, "Tell them. Subscribe now if you want him back. It pleases the house." Eric's skin burned where the reflection hand gripped. Hannah kicked the mirror frame, roots cracking. The hand recoiled. Eric fell backward, gasping. The mirror pulsed red now. The girl stepped toward them, her face finally visible. Half-rotted, jaw torn wide, teeth too many, eyes swirling voids. She opened her mouth. A screech like ripping metal, walls splitting, the ceiling collapsing, the basement swallowing itself, and just as she lunged toward Eric, the floor gave way beneath them and they plummeted into darkness. They plummeted into darkness. Eric felt weightless, then smashed onto cold stone. Hannah and Lily landed beside him with bone-jolting thuds. Dust exploded upward. Something skittered away in the black. Eric coughed, pushing up on shaky arms. "Hannah? Lily?" "I'm here," Hannah gasped. "Me too," Lily whispered, voice trembling. They looked up, no opening, no hole they had fallen from, just a smooth ceiling. The house had swallowed the collapse. A long corridor stretched in front of them, dim lanterns flickering on by themselves, one by one, guiding them deeper like runway lights. "Where are we now?" Lily whimpered. Eric stood, forcing strength into his voice. "Whatever this is, it wants us to go forward. I don't wanna," Hannah breathed. "We don't get a choice." They walked, stones cold beneath their feet. Along the walls hung paintings, portraits of strangers, all posed stiffly, but their eyes followed the trio with hunger. As they passed a doorway, whispers spilled through. Turn back, Lily squeezed her brother's hand. "Eric, I don't think this house ever lets people leave." Eric didn't answer. The hallway opened into a vast underground chamber like a ballroom carved from rock. A grand piano sat in the center. A chandelier hung above it, flickering green light like rotting fireflies. On the piano bench sat someone. A man in old-fashioned clothing, back turned, hands poised over keys. They froze. He played a note, then another. Slow, sad, Eric shouted, "Hey, sir!" The figure stopped. The head didn't turn, but the neck creaked slowly, painfully, turning too far until the man's face stared backward. His expression was blank. His eyes were empty sockets stuffed with black candle wax. Eric stepped back instinctively, shielding Hannah and Lily. The man spoke not with his mouth, but with the piano. Keys clacked words. Run. They didn't argue. They bolted across the chamber, the piano slamming discordant terror notes behind them. Shadows sprang from cracks in the walls, clawing outward but held back like chained beasts. At the far end, two massive doors towered over them, engraved with symbols too old to read. Eric shoved them open. They burst into another chamber, this one shaped like a cathedral, ceiling arching high. 7 child-sized coffins lined the center aisle. Each lid slowly opened. Lily gagged. No, no, no. Tiny figures sat up inside them, small bodies, heads tilted. Then they turned to stare, eyes glowing faintly. Eric barreled forward, dragging the others. Don't look, just move. As they neared the end of the room, the coffins creaked, louder children crying, moaning, reaching. Eric shoved through a narrow archway. The moment they passed it, all sound cut. Complete silence. Oppressive, crushing silence. A torch flickered alive ahead, revealing a stone altar. Thin leather-bound books lay stacked, 7 of them, labeled in faded script. Eric picked one up. It was blank except for one phrase on the first page. This house doesn't haunt you, you haunt the house. Eric's heart hammered. What does that mean? Hannah backed away. Put it down, Eric. He did, but the book began flipping pages on its own. Words carved themselves across paper. You let it in when you stepped over the threshold. You fed IT when you looked at its face. You belong to IT now. The letters bled red. Lily screamed and slapped the book off the altar. It hit stone and burst into ash. A deep rumble shook the room. Torches erupted around them. A voice thundered from nowhere. The trade isn't done. Eric shoved his family toward the exit, another archway appearing, as if the house built it on the spot. They ran into a new corridor, this one narrower, curved downward like a throat descending. Hannah gasped. Eric, what if this is the way deeper, not out? We don't stop, he growled. A soft giggle echoed. The little girl stood far down the hall, arms hanging loose, head swaying. She whispered, still reading? Good. Don't forget to this only gets worse. Then she dissolved into the wall. They sprinted downward until the floor leveled and opened into a small room. A single chair sat in the middle. Straps hung from it. Eric approached carefully. This is like an asylum restraint. Behind them, a metal door slammed shut, sealing them inside. Eric spun, pounding on it. No, open! The chair shifted, wood creaking. Something invisible sat in its straps, tightening around air. Then the air bled into form, a human outline slowly becoming the girl. She stared at them, whispering the same plea from earlier. Help me. Eric trembled. What do you want from us? Witness. The house shuddered. The walls melted away, replaced by images, visions like film projected into empty space. A family moving into the house decades earlier, laughing, a little girl running through the halls. Then darkness. Screams. The house reshaping itself around them like a trap. The family twisting into shadows, trapped forever. Eric gasped. You were them, we were you, she corrected. The vision faded. She rose from the chair, stepping toward Eric, reaching out. Eric backed away. Nitrogen monoxide. Her hand touched his shoulder. He saw flashes. Himself at the front door earlier. The house opening on its own. The whisper telling him to go inside. He saw himself nodding without realizing inviting it. You accepted the invitation, the girl breathed. You let the house inside you. She pulled her hand away. The restraint chair and walls snapped back into place. Lily collapsed, crying. We're cursed! Eric, what do we do? Eric gritted his teeth. We fight back. How? Hannah sobbed. Eric scanned the wall stone, seamless. But he noticed markings etched, faintly circles, runes, cuts in the rock. This house has rules, he muttered. There must be a way. The door unlocked. They didn't question it, they rushed out. The corridor ahead curved upward, faint moonlight appearing at the top. Stairs! Eric shouted. Go! They climbed, lungs burning. At the top, another door. Eric shoved it open. They stumbled into the master bedroom again. The same mirror now cracked further. The same air cold thick. But this time, the little girl wasn't alone. The gaunt man stood beside her. And those 7 coffin children stood around the room, forming a circle. Hannah clutched Eric. They're here for us. The gaunt man raised his skeletal hand. The house is hungry. Eric stepped forward, voice breaking. Take me, let them go. No! Hannah screamed. Lily sobbed, shaking her head. The girl walked up to Eric, laying her small hand over his heart. For a moment she looked almost human sad. Then her face split wide, revealing rows of blackened teeth. The house requires more than one, she whispered. A family feeds better. The children began closing in, chanting a lullaby. The walls bled black liquid. The mirror rippled like a portal. The gaunt man grabbed Hannah. She screamed as his fingers dug into her skin. Eric, she shrieked. Lily was seized by 2 shadow children, dragging her backward, nails slicing skin. Eric charged, but invisible force pinned him to the wall. He fought, screamed, tore at the air, but his limbs were locked. The mirror cracked open wider, a black void forming, the house roaring with hunger. The girl leaned in close to Eric's ear. They enter the house now. Thunder slammed through the walls. Hannah was dragged toward the mirror, screaming. Lily too. Eric strained, veins bulging. And the void swallowed them, their fingers slipping from his. The last thing he saw was Hannah's face disappearing through the dark glass. And the mirror sealed shut, leaving Eric alone, pinned. And the house whispered, "Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn." Eric thrashed, muscles tearing, screaming until his voice shredded. The invisible force tightened like cold hands crushing bone. The room darkened, walls stretching away, ceiling evaporating into black clouds. The bed dissolved. The dresser melted. Only Eric and the cracked mirror remained. He choked out, "Give them back." The house answered with a slow, delighted rumble. "Earn them." Eric was yanked off the wall and hurled to the floor. Pain exploded in his ribs. He crawled toward the mirror, its reflection boiling like tar, shapes writhing inside. "Hannah! Lily!" he shouted. Something moved within the glass, two faint silhouettes reaching, distant, distorted. Eric slammed his fists on the mirror. "Let them go!" The little girl appeared beside him in a blink, her face, inches from his. Hollow pits for eyes, breathing cold air across his skin. "You want them back?" "Yes!" Eric roared. "Then follow." The floor beneath him ruptured, stone teeth opening like jaws swallowing him whole. He fell again through darkness, smashing into dirt this time, coughing soil from his mouth. He staggered up. He was outside. But not really. It looked like the forest they saw earlier, but wrong. Trees warped tall and twisted, branches curling like fingers. The sky was black and starless, clouds pulsing. There was no wind, no sound, no smell. Something rustled behind him. Eric turned. A group of shadow children stood at the tree line staring. He backed away, but they followed soundlessly. "Hannah?" He called into the dead forest. "Lily?" A faint cry answered far away. Eric bolted toward it, tearing through roots and vines. The ground squelched like flesh underfoot. The trees leaned toward him, branches reaching. He tripped, slamming into a clearing. The gaunt man stood there, towering, head tilted unnaturally. Beside him hung two cages, rusted, suspended by chains from the crooked trees. Inside each, Hannah, Lily. They clung to the bars, pale, shaking, mouths gagged by strips of fabric that looked like skin. "Eric!" Lily screamed around it. Eric ran toward them. The gaunt man extended a skeletal arm. Eric froze, body locked. "Do you understand the trade now?" The thing whispered without moving its mouth. "Take me," Eric snarled. "Let them go. You are brave," it hissed. "But bravery is not what feeds us." The cages rose higher, chains creaking. "No!" Eric clawed the dirt uselessly. From behind him, the children approached, shadows whispering, limbs dragging. A voice echoed across the clearing, not the girl's, not the man's. Something deeper, older. To retrieve the lost, one must give the house something it cannot steal. Eric gasped. "What?" "What does that mean?" Will, a shape manifested. An old woman made of mist, eyes glowing faintly. "The house cannot consume what you freely sacrifice." Eric staggered up. "What do I sacrifice?" She drifted closer, voice trembling. "Your fear, your obedience. Your surrender. Do not accept its rules." Her form flickered. Children reached for her. She faded before they touched. The gaunt man lunged toward Eric, long arms snapping forward. But Eric didn't move this time. He didn't flinch. He stared back into its eyeless sockets. No. The gaunt creature twitched, confused. Eric shouted louder, voice echoing through the dead forest. "You don't control me! You don't control my family!" The clearing trembled. The trees recoiled. The cages lowered a fraction, the house shuddering. Eric stepped forward, fists clenched. "You want to trade? Here, take this." He spread his arms. "I refuse you." A screech like 1,000 knives ripped through the air. The children screamed. The gaunt man convulsed. The girl appeared at Eric's side, face warped in rage. "Stop, you cannot break the story." Eric grabbed her tiny wrist. Her flesh burned like fire against his skin, but he squeezed harder. "You are not the story. We are." The forest cracked open, sky splitting, a roar shaking everything. Hannah's cage crashed halfway down. Lilies dropped lower. Eric lunged toward them. The gaunt man recovered, charging like a spider. Eric braced. He wouldn't run now. He tackled the monster mid-lunge, slamming it into the ground. Its bones shattered, then reformed, then shattered again, flickering between forms. Eric screamed at it, face inches away. "You don't own US!" The children shrieked and collapsed. The trees recoiled. The cages snapped open, Hannah and Lily tumbling out. Eric turned, running to them, lifting them up. "I've got you, I've got you." The earth began swallowing itself, collapsing inward. "We need to move," Hannah yelled. Eric pulled them through the forest, past crumbling ground. The world twisted violently, scenery bending like liquid. A towering doorway emerged in the distance, glowing. "A way out!" Lily pointed. Before they reached it, the ground erupted, throwing them down. The little girl stood between them and the doorway, eyes burning. "You think you win? This house is everywhere you go." Eric rose to his knees, Hannah and Lily beside him. The girl extended her hand. "Your story belongs to us now." Eric stood not afraid, holding Hannah and Lily close. "No, we write the ending." The girl's mouth opened impossibly wide. She lunged. Eric pushed Hannah and Lily behind him. The girl collided, and Eric grabbed her, holding on, burning flesh peeling. "Let me inside." She shrieked. "No," Eric growled. "You don't get to live in us." He roared and hurled her into the collapsing ground. She fell screeching. The doorway surged open, dragging them forward. They were sucked through, spiraling, tumbling, then they landed on wood. Warm wood. Light flooded their eyes. They were back, in the living room, packaged boxes. Their truck outside, sunlight leaking through curtains. The house looked ordinary again. Eric gasped. "It's morning!" Hannah sobbed, hugging Lily. Eric exhaled, shaking. "We're leaving, now." They rushed outside to the truck. But Eric stopped. The front door still open. Inside, the house flickered once, like lights dimming. The little girl's voice whispered faintly, "Come back soon." Eric slammed the door shut. Wood splintered, glass shattered. The house roared. The truck engine fired. They tore down the road, gravel kicking, trees thinned. Civilization returned. Eric drove fast, silent, eyes fixed ahead. Lily cried softly in the back. Hannah held his hand. "We escaped," she whispered. Eric didn't answer. His gaze flicked to the rearview mirror. The house stood far behind, but in the mirror, the little girl sat in the truck bed, smiling. Eric's heart stopped. He jerked the wheel. She vanished. Nothing in the bed. Silence. Hannah whispered, "Eric." "It's over," Eric nodded, but his skin crawled. When they reached town, Eric parked. Hannah and Lily ran inside the motel. Eric stayed behind a second, breathing. He closed his eyes. A whisper slid into his ear. "Don't forget to subscribe, we are not finished." Eric spun. No one. He rushed inside to his family. They held each other all night, but something felt wrong in his chest. He felt watched, observed, claimed. Sometime near dawn, Hannah finally slept. Lily too. Eric lay awake. His reflection in the window stared back, but his eyes looked darker, hollow. Something tapped the glass behind his reflection. 3 slow knocks. Eric whispered, voice breaking. "It followed us." A child's giggle drifted through the room, and the lights flickered. The motel corridor outside groaned, shadows moved, then silence. And a tiny handprint appeared on the inside of the window next to Eric's face. Black smudged, as a voice breathed against his ear. "We never let go." His voice cracked as he screamed her name, but the house swallowed the sound like it was eating it. The walls pulsed. Shadows crawled upward like black veins beneath the surface. The air grew thick, almost alive, vibrating with hunger. The title whispered again, House of Haunted. Not as a warning anymore, but as a claim, this was its domain now. Ethan staggered forward, fighting against the invisible force trying to drag him down. Emily reached for him, blood streaked down her face, but her eyes burned with defiance. The ghost woman towered over them now, her jaw unhinged like a broken doll, reaching, stretching, widening into a cavern of cold. "Don't let her close your eyes," Emily shouted. Ethan forced them open even as the ghost shoved darkness over his face like wet cloth. He felt the house rooting into him, forcing memories he didn't have. Murders, promises, oaths spoken in blood. The floor below cracked wide like a throat. Emily hurled herself at him, slamming into his body, and her voice tore through the roar. "Look at me!" Their bodies smashed against the banister as the house lurched again, tearing itself apart. Windows imploded. Screams, hundreds of voices swirled like a hurricane. Emily's grip slipped. "No!" Ethan roared, snagging her wrist before she fell. Their feet dangled over a void where the house's heart beat like something alive. Ghost hands reached upward, trying to peel them apart. Emily looked at him, tears slicing through the grime on her face. "You have to end it." "How?" She didn't answer. She only jammed something into his free hand. A locket. The locket the ghost had carried. Suddenly Ethan saw flashes. A woman murdered, a family sacrificed, a curse bound to wood and stone. This house was not haunted, it was the ghost. Its existence demanded offerings, forever. Emily whispered, "Break it." The ghost shrieked so sharply Ethan's ears bled. Darkness whipped violently around them. "I can't reach," he shouted. "Yes, you can." Emily forced her hand over his, squeezing it, guiding it. "You're not alone." The ghost roared, towering over them, arms stretching like ropes of smoke. Ethan slammed the locket against the floor beam, protruding near them, and crushed it under his heel. A sound like bone cracking echoed through the void. The house convulsed. Light exploded through the walls like veins igniting. Emily screamed not in fear, but in release. The ghost reeled back, shrieking as her form shattered into dust. The floor snapped upward, flinging Ethan and Emily against the railing. The world ripped. Silence. Then wind. Cool, natural wind drill wind. When Ethan dared open his eyes, he was lying on grass outside the house. Emily lay beside him, unconscious but breathing. Behind them, the mansion stood skeletal, fading like smoke. Voices whispered, fading away. They crawled away, dragging each other like wounded survivors escaping a battlefield. The last echo of the ghost spoke in the air behind them, not a threat, almost relief. Finally. Then the house collapsed inward like a dying lung and vanished under twisting ash. Emily gasped awake, clutching Ethan. For the first time since entering the property, the world sounded normal. Crickets, distant road noise, wind. They laughed, broken but alive. They staggered to the road, waving down a passing car. The driver looked terrified at their condition, but helped them inside. As they pulled away, Ethan looked back, but the field was empty. No structure, no ruins, as if nothing ever existed. Emily shuddered. "Do you think it's really gone?" Ethan didn't answer, but deep inside, he wondered whether places like that ever truly ended. The House of Haunted, its name etched in their bones. They were miles away when Ethan finally leaned back, exhausted. Emily squeezed his hand. "We survived," she whispered. But then his phone vibrated, one notification, a picture of the mansion. Taken from behind them, room lights glowing, shadow in the window. Emily saw it too, her face draining color. "Tell me that's from before. It just arrived, and then the car lights flickered." The driver froze, staring ahead. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked. The driver didn't blink, his voice came out hollow. "You can't leave the House of Haunted." The radio turned on by itself. Static. A woman whispering. "We are still inside." Emily grabbed Ethan's arm. Ethan looked outside. The world through the car windows warped, stretching, bending, dissolving, and suddenly the road ahead faded into a corridor. Wallpaper peeling. The ceiling sagging. They weren't driving anymore. They were rolling slowly. Through the foyer of the house returned. Emily screamed, jerking the door handle. It wouldn't open. The ghost's voice filled the air. "This house does not release those who feed it." Floorboards beneath the tires groaned. The walls closed in, swallowing the car. The headlights died. They were plunged into darkness. Emily clutched Ethan. "We're still here. Oh God, we never got out." The car stopped. The lights faded back on, and they were parked inside the grand hall where the story first began. But everything was wrong. The portraits now featured them. Emily in one frame, Ethan in another, eyes hollow, expressions twisted into trapped terror. He backed against the car door. "This can't be real." Emily staggered toward the nearest painting. Her painted self moved, whispering, "Welcome home," all around them. The whisper rose, hundreds of versions of their own voices calling them deeper. The ghost was gone. They were the replacements. Emily let out a ragged scream as invisible hands seized her and dragged her toward the portrait. Ethan fought them, claws tearing at his skin, blood streaking the floor. Let her go! But the more he fought, the stronger the force became. Emily's fingers scraped across the floor, nails ripping as she was pulled inside the canvas, her face freezing in a silent scream. Then their painted versions turned toward him. Join us. Ethan scrambled backward, but hands erupted from the walls, grabbing his ankles. The corridor yawned open, swallowing him into darkness. His last breath echoed, "Help me." The darkness sealed. The portraits blinked. Silence. Then, faintly, whispers crept through the house once again. If you want to escape, if you want answers, if you dare return, subscribe, follow our voice. Find us. Lightning lit the abandoned field for a moment. Only 2 portraits stood there now, sitting in a frame where the house once existed. Emily and Ethan, watching, waiting, calling. And if anyone listened closely, they could hear the house rebuilding itself slowly, ready for its next visitor. For the House of Haunted never dies, it only hungers, so follow, subscribe, return, before it finds you first.